Hello everyone, I'm Jason Acuna, and I will be your host for this episode of Unbothered. I'm joined today by WFSU audio engineer, Evan Rossi. How's it going, Evan?
Doing just fine today, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing great. So our topic today is vinyl records. And I heard that you have a pretty nice collection. Is that true?
I think it is. I've been collecting for just about my whole life, off and on.
Off and on. Does that mean that you've taken breaks from collecting?
I took a long break when I was a teenager, moving up to college, so around 17, 18. I would say I had somewhere in the vicinity of 800 to 900 records. But when I moved to college, you can't take all those records with you. That's not even going to fit in a dorm. And I wasn't prepared to make that. I wasn't willing to, and I certainly didn't have the money to. So I left my records at home and brought a small portion, about 40 records, up to Tallahassee with me. My mother converted my bedroom into a craft room, because that's what happens when you go to college.
Of course.
And she had the carpet ripped up and replaced with linoleum, and the people who boxed up my records from my room moved them into the attic for what was supposed to be like a long weekend. And they ended up living in there for 7.5 months. So they all turned into black vinyl cubes in an unventilated Fort Lauderdale attic for the better part of a year. So, no good. So I was very, very saddened, depressed. I shed a tear, Jason, over the loss of those records.
As we all would.
And took a long break from collecting again. I only started picking them back up again around 2018.
Wow. So you would say that storing your vinyl records properly is of the utmost importance.
It really is. You have a large amount of wiggle room of what's appropriate. I would just say don't place them in an unventilated attic for 7.5 months. It's really good advice.
For sure. Hello, Matt. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you being here. I really am excited to talk about vinyl and get into all the essentials that people need to know. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself before we get going?
So, my name's Matt Sampson. I'm 31 years old. I'm the co-owner of Real Cool Time Records, and went to FSU. I grew up down in South Florida, Broward County area. And I'm a hopeless record addict.
Absolutely. So the reason I wanted to talk to you, Matt, is because I'm seeing a lot of streaming artists, a lot of artists in general, are releasing a lot of vinyl in order to kind of boost their streaming sales. They're doing this as part of like merch bundles where they'll either sell T-shirts or they'll do vinyl records or CDs. And when fans purchase those items, it comes with a digital download of their album, and that counts as a streaming sale. So I'm seeing a lot of first-time vinyl buyers purchasing these collector's vinyls and coming into some issues with them and blaming vinyl when the vinyl warps. And it seems like they might just have a kind of a lack of deep knowledge about how to treat these vinyls and how to store them. And so my first question for you is really just, well, one, what are vinyl records and how do they work in a basic sense so that people can kind of understand them a little bit better?
So vinyl records, they have little tiny grooves in them, and when the needle hits the groove, there's a signal that gets picked up, and it has the sound is pressed into the record. So those little grooves, they can be fragile, and they have some wear and tear over time. So if you play the record a lot, there's going to be some noise that comes with it. And there's also all sorts of manufacturing defects and things that can happen in the vinyl making process that could have something to do with the sound of the record.
Absolutely. And so for these first-time buyers and these new collectors, how should they be storing their new vinyl? Is there a best way to be doing that?
There is a preferred way, yes. You are going to want to store your records upright. So, not flat down on the ground. You don't want to stack them. After a while, if a record is sitting flat, gravity will take its course and it'll slightly warp. And sometimes if they're leaned, diagonally up against a bookshelf for long enough, that can happen as well. But your best bet is to just have them stored upright and like a nice, cool, not humid environment, like a dry place, and away from any heat. So you want to try to keep it away from any windows or areas where in your house or wherever you're storing it where some heat would be. So yeah, just a nice, cool place, and preferably like tightly packed and upright.
Absolutely. And is there just one correct way to store vinyl, or could there ever be a situation where it's a little dependent on setting or temperature, humidity, like you were saying?
You're gonna want it to be, I mean, it doesn't need to be like in a freezing cold place. It just needs to be like in a cool place where there's no humidity so that the jacket doesn't get damaged at all. There are ways to prevent that, like say, um, I mean, with outer sleeves, like plastic sleeves that you want to put over the cover. And if you want to get a certain particular type of inner sleeve for the record to be in, that would also increase the life of your records. Um, yeah. Let me think. One sec.
No problem.
Yeah, like the best way to do it would be, yeah, just have them stored upright in an outer sleeve with the record in an inner sleeve inside the packaging. And yeah, just want to make sure it's not wet or too hot wherever you're storing the records.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so another issue I'm seeing is that it seems the needle from the record player is digging into some people's vinyl, and it's kind of creating, a lasting static and noise. Can you explain what might be going on there?
So, if your needle is really old, we replace our needle like, we it depends on how high quality the needle is. Sometimes, you could buy a needle for like thousands of dollars. You could also just buy one for like $50. And the really expensive ones, they might be able to last longer, but it more has to do with the like audio quality. So some needles are going to be really, really sensitive, and they're going to pick up like every little bit of noise that happens, or like, every little defect. And then some needles, you like will hear some noise, but it won't be like that in your face. You weren't going to want to replace your needle like, every, I'd say 8 months to a year. Maybe sometimes you could go over a year. It really depends on how often you're playing it. And one thing to keep in mind, a lot of people, when they go out and they buy record players, sometimes when they're setting it up, they're unsure. Like sometimes, like the record player most likely is going to have a weight arm for the arm with the needle is attached to. And if the weight is too, like if there's too little weight on it, the needle could bounce on the record when you're playing it, and you'll be like, oh, weird, my record is skipping, but really there's not enough weight on the needle. And the opposite thing could happen, where is if there's too much weight on the needle will, or too much weight on the arm, the needle will be pressing down too hard, and that could cause damage to the record. I've seen it with Crosley players before. Back when I was in high school, I was over at my buddy's place, and he was like, hey man, like, I don't know what happened. I have this record player, and I just got this record, and now it sounds like crap. And basically I went over there, and his weight arm was so heavy that it had like scratched like a spiral into his record after he played it. So you're going to want to avoid that at all costs. And I've even seen the trick, if you don't have a weight knob, or maybe your weight knob is broken. I've seen people put like, a dime or a penny, tape it to the arm to just add that weight on it so that it's not popping up. So yeah, those are some solutions, and it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're getting a record player and setting it up.
Absolutely. So you're saying the best way to avoid that is to kind of make sure that you are replacing your needle often enough, have a
Yeah,
quality needle, and make sure that the needle arm is properly counterweighted.
properly counterweighted, yes. And if you're playing a record and it's a little dusty, you might see your needle pick up some dust. So when the record's done playing, or if you want to pick up the arm and just like you can like pull that dust off ever so gently without damaging the needle. And yeah, also cleaning records definitely before playing them is a must, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Going off of that, what would you say the best way to go about cleaning your records before playing them is?
So There are several ways you can do it. There's definitely a lot of things you can buy to clean. There's record brushes. There's record cleaner machines. What we do, we kind of do it a little more DIY thing. If the record isn't a super involved clean, you can get a pack of like microfiber cloths that are like really soft, and they'll pick up off like all the dust, surface dust that is on the record. And you're going to want to spray the record with a solution that you can either buy a record cleaning solution or you can make your own. Just get a spray bottle. I'd say get a little spray bottle and then fill it with 1 part isopropyl alcohol, around like 90% or up. You can do like 90 and up. And then you're going to want to get preferably distilled water, 3 parts of distilled water. And the reason why you want to do distilled, and some people prefer distilled, because if you're using tap water or any other sort of water, there's little bitty minerals in there that you will actually be rubbing into the record that could affect the sound in a way. But yeah, we use distilled. So yeah, 3 parts distilled water, 1 part alcohol, and then you're going to want to spray it a couple of times on each side. Wipe it down with the microfiber, wait till it dries, and play it. And you're going to want to avoid spraying the labels, because you don't want to get the labels, which is the center paper area where the spindle hole goes in.
Hmm.
So just spray the actual record itself. Make sure, and because of the alcohol solution, it will dry pretty fast. And after you're wiping it down with the microfiber, it should also take out some static.
And going off of that, if you do encounter any issues, any scratching, any warping, is there a way to repair or restore vinyl that has warped?
Oh yeah, totally. This is actually kind of a newer invention, and you know, I've been collecting records since I was about 15 years old, and I can't even count the times that I've come across records that I love or that I want that are warped and unplayable completely because you just can't play it on the needle. It'll keep skipping. Um, uh, if anyone has that problem, I recommend there is a device called the Record Pi. And there's probably other companies and machines now. This is like a newer kind of invention, but we have one at the shop. I believe it costs around $250. There might be like different kinds. The one that we have, we can flatten 2 records at once, and depending on how severe the warp is, it can take between like 2 to sometimes 4 hours, sometimes longer, sometimes less if it's a very slight warp. Yeah, it's called the Record Pi. We actually offer it as a service in the shop. So if someone wants to bring in some records that are warped and they want them to be fixed, we charge $5 a warp. If your record's a double LP, we still just charge as if it's one record. And yeah, we offer that as a service. That device is absolutely like indispensable to us. We use it. It has made records that are completely unplayable playable again. We have people come and bringing them in. And if for some reason someone were to purchase a record from us that is used and it's a warp that we missed, we will flatten it for free. And also another thing with new records, sealed new records, sometimes either due to pressing um, mishaps or something. Sometimes the record will get pressed and shipped warped. That is usually not the case. What usually happens is that it might get warped in transit due to the way that it is being stored or being shipped, and due to the level of heat. I know during the summer this happens more often than other times just because of the heat. And we'll order a batch of like sealed records, and then a couple of them will come in warped, and we fix those for free, obviously. So if someone were to crack open a brand new record and there's a little warp to it, we could fix that no problem. And it'll be a short fix too, because usually they don't come in like absolutely crazy warped. Sometimes there's a slight bowl or like little lip, on the edge, and we can fix those super easy. It is an amazing, amazing invention, and every
Yeah.
record store should have one.
No, yeah, I definitely feel that. I've definitely been a victim of a slightly warped record coming in through the mail. So that's great to know that that's a
Mhm.
service
Oh,
that you can get.
and let me go back to the cleaning thing. One thing that I left out. This is another device that we have in the shop right now. It is an ultrasonic record cleaner. Now, these suckers can be expensive. I believe they run between like 250 to 500. I think the one that we have in the shop is more around $500 range, and you can get even crazier ones. It is called an ultrasonic cleaner. So you pop the record in it, you put a little cleaning solution, some distilled water, and you can fire it up. You can do a 5 minute or 10 minute clean. It's got like a built-in vacuum in it, and that device is something that is for records that need a more involved cleaning. So say like old like 50s, 60s jazz records that might be beat up and they might be super dirty, and you can take out most of the dust with the microfiber cloth and the alcohol spray, but some of that dust, like ancient dust, is going to be caked in there from decades. So ultrasonic cleaner is going to suck it right out, and it's going to make it sound way better and look way glossier. And we also offer that as a service if someone comes in and they want to bring in a record for us to ultrasonically clean because they can't fully get the dust out. We do $3 a record for that. That is also, yeah, like we tend to use that for some more like pricier records where, we clean it, we test play it, and we're like, ooh, there still sounds like there's some dust on there. And then we pop it in the ultrasonic cleaner. Obviously,
Gotcha.
there is no recommended or real way to fix scratches. So if a record is scratched up or cut up, we can't really fix that. I've seen people take a little pocket knife and, poke at the grooves to try and make a record not skip. And that is ill advised because technically you are causing more damage to the record. But if you don't care about damaging, like about it being more damaged further and you just want to hear it, I've seen people do that, but I do not recommend it. Um,
Gotcha. And
but
going off of the how you said you clean the those older records from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Going off of that, for someone who's interested in collecting vinyl from that era, is there anything that they should be on the lookout for when collecting that vinyl in store?
Mhm.
Is there a way to know by looking at the vinyl that maybe it will play better than some others, or is it really kind of a
Yeah.
little bit of a gamble?
So sometimes when you're out in the wild and you're looking for records, obviously you're going to want to pull it out and check the grooves. And if it is scratched up, there are times, we'll get beat up Beatles records and we'll get beat up soul records that look really rough. And, you'll put them on and there'll be some noise, but they actually play way, like, surprisingly better than you would like expect. So just run your fingers across the grooves if you're out, like, digging around. And if you are like some hairlines, you're going to see hairlines. Those are like needle marks from the needle. And some hairlines, they're going to be like superficial. So when you run your fingers across them, you won't really feel them too much. And that is a good signifier that it will not skip on that area. If you're feeling a used record and you feel some like, like you could put your nail in it, or you feel like it's a little bumps, or like scratches that you can actually feel, there is a good chance that it will skip on that part. Or if it doesn't skip, it will make some loud popping noises. And you want to be a little picky. If it's a record that you absolutely love and you want it, I mean, and it's beat up, you can get that and like upgrade it later. But obviously also when it comes to playing super beat up records, you don't want to do it too much. Because it does, if you're playing beat up records constantly, it will decrease the life of your needle. We're constantly playing and test playing beat up records at the shop all the time, and we upgrade our needle probably a little more often than a regular collector would. Depends on how much you're listening. But yeah, you're gonna want to feel it and check for areas in which you think the record might skip. And as you go along, once you start doing it more and more, you'll get more knowledgeable, and
You get more of
you'll
a
be like,
feel for it.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's pretty easy, self-explanatory way to like learn. You just got to do it as it goes. And if you have a record that you bring home and it skips, uh, pick up the needle and check and look at where it skips, and then and see what kind of mark that is. So there have been times where the record will look absolutely near mint, super clean, and it'll skip, and that could be due to a manufacturing defect or a warp or something that you didn't really catch right away. Another thing, when you're out in the wild, pull the record out, check the grooves, and then hold it up horizontal and see if it's got a little warp, or if it's straight, then you're good to go. So yeah, you want to check the warp and you check the condition. Usually, that's what I always do.
Gotcha, absolutely. And so in closing, I have two last questions for you.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a favorite vinyl pressing slash release? And do you have any holy grail vinyl that you've been hunting and you're still on the lookout for?
Okay, so there is a record that just came out recently that I've been listening to nonstop. It is an artist named Cindy Lee, and they just put out this record called Diamond Jubilee. It is my album of the year. Oh,
Hmm.
and another thing, the record that I got of it, it's like gold vinyl. N- Nowadays, when you're getting records and there's the limited edition like color variants, they're going to sound great. Some back in the day, people would say, and I can kind of hear it. I'm starting to get better with it. But old pressings of color vinyl or picture discs where there's an image printed on the record, those can suffer in sound quality because of the way that it's pressed and the type of ink and whatnot that is used. But when you're buying, like today, they use like heavy quality vinyl for the most part, and regardless of what color the pressing is, they're going to sound great. So don't shy away from getting a limited edition record because you think that the black vinyl is going to sound better. That is only the case for older stuff. I'd say like 80s and before. And as for Holy Grail, there is one record I have that, I mean, if I were to purge my whole collection, there is one that would be the hardest to part with, and it is actually a 7-inch record. It is, are you familiar with the band Pavement?
Yes, I have heard of them. Yes.
Yeah, so Pavement, they're one of my favorite bands of all time, but it is a 7-inch of Pavement's Sleigh Tracks from 1989, I believe. And yeah, that is a 7-inch that I will probably be buried with. It is, yeah, one of my holy grails, the first ever Pavement release in 1989.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you taking a moment to talk with me and to help give us all the info that we need to know about how to treat our vinyl and how to get the best and most out of it. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate you talking with me and
thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, I really appreciate you.